Marco Rubio was flying high coming out of the Iowa caucuses with his surprisingly strong third-place finish. But after Saturday's debate, he came crashing back to earth with a thud. So who clipped Rubio's wings? Was it self-inflicted or inflicted by the media?
There exists a distinguished brotherhood of debate bunglers. Dan Quayle, Gerald Ford, Rick Perry, Marco Rubio. Wait, Marco Rubio? Let's back up. Last Saturday, ABC's David Muir asked Rubio if voters might regret electing another first-term senator like Barack Obama.
And let's dispel once and for all with this fiction that Barack Obama doesn't know what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing.
That kicked off a 5-minute back and forth with Chris Christie, who finally pounced on Rubio's talking point.
Here's the bottom line. This notion that Barack Obama doesn't know what he's doing is just not true.
There it is.
He knows exactly what he's doing.
There it is, the memorized 25-second speech.
Well, that's
there
the
it is,
reason
everybody.
why this can't...
The media also pounced, calling Rubio's so-called robot moment really bad, a choke, a disaster.
There was a replicant standing there, not a human being. It was strange.
His performance reminded me of nothing so much as Dan Quayle.
Now that's harsh. Does Rubio really rank among the all-time debate losers?
Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy.
That moment clung to Dan Quayle like a cheap shirt, even after he was elected vice president. No such luck for another former vice president after this infamous moment.
There is no Soviet domination of Eastern Europe, and there never will be under a Ford administration.
Then there's the more recent mental block that doomed former Texas Governor Rick Perry.
It's 3 agencies of government when I get there that are gone. Commerce, education, and the, what's the third one there? Let's see.
But for robotic moments, the gold standard still belongs to Michael Dukakis and his wooden response to this infamous question.
If Kitty Dukakis were raped and murdered, would you favor an irrevocable death penalty for the killer?
No, I don't, Bernard, and I think you know that I've opposed the death penalty during all of my life.
Whether Marco Rubio's debate performance proves fatal is up to voters. We already know what the media thinks.
So we're going to post the entire clip on our website, wgbhnews.org, under Beat the Press, so people can make up their minds, because it actually did go 5 minutes or so. Try to do that even-handedly, because some people in our newsroom were arguing that the media really pounced on him. Others were saying he really did himself in. I was in the debate, overflow room that night with 500 other journalists, and there was a lot of groaning and moaning going on. It struck us as really, really odd right in the moment that it was so repetitious, that he said the same exact phrase over and over again. Now, did it rise to the level of Michael Dukakis, who should have said what we just said? What a repulsive question. What a horrible image for you, Bernard Shaw, to conjure up for all of America to ponder and then answer. If he had had some kind of a retort or a comeback, it wouldn't have hung on his neck like an albatross. But I thought the Rubio moment was pretty damning. Although everybody in the media consolidated it and did it, back to back. They cut it, so the replay was over and over and over, and as we do, and so it made it sound like he said it like 800 times, whether really it was over the span of 5 minutes.
I thought it was really bad, and I thought it was really bad in the moment, and I can tell you I was following along on Twitter as well. Twitter exploded over this. I think that of all these moments that you put up on the screen, this was maybe somewhere in the middle, which means it was really bad. I think that, what's really funny about this is that Rubio himself was quoted in the New York Times as saying that he realized how bad it was the minute the debate was over, and he started looking at what people were saying about it on Twitter. So
it took him 4 days to apologize.
Well, I mean, what could he do? Yeah. He wanted to try to make it go away, and then on New Hampshire primary night, he realized it hadn't gone away.
There are very few people that have a robot in their guys. Some guy dressed up as a robot as Rubio. Yeah. So there you go. I watch it like a normal person at home, and at first you're thinking, was it? Did I shut off for a moment? I think that's what he said just a few minutes ago. Then I said, no, that couldn't be right. Then it happened again. I was like, wait a minute, he just said that. Then when it happened again, it didn't matter that it was over a 5-minute, 10-minute, or however long the span was. It was quite clear that there was something really wrong. So then I was really staring at the screen going, what? And so when Christie said, there it is, I thought, wow, this is bad.
It was like a panic attack.
Yeah.
It could have been.
Yeah, I'm sure it
Either
was.
that, or he really
Yeah.
thought that was a message that somebody said that it's going to resonate with people.
Well, it
So
is. Apparently, it is resonating in those small groups on the trail. So that people flock to hear it, they cheer, they whatever. So it's something that he was going to say, I think, once, but 3 times or 4 times, no.
It is definitely part of his strategy to try and push what had been an intramural Republican debate towards Barack Obama. So that going back, that was a move he was planning that he was trying to execute. That said, it was amazing how terrible a moment it was from my perspective. I think these sorts
Were
of...
you just watching at home?
I was watching at home and watching on Twitter, and these sorts of moments really resonate when they align with already pre-existing ideas that people have about candidates. And the idea that people had about Marco Rubio was that he is young, that he is inexperienced, but that he's a political talent. The idea, the comparisons to Bill Clinton as he's someone who just has it. And when you see someone like that fall back on this road explanation, not just going back to it once, but he said the same phrase 4 times, including the 4th one 20 minutes later on in the debate, I think it was, it really went back to that notion. It's also interesting, after that debate, I don't know if you saw McKay Coppins in BuzzFeed wrote a great article that was an excerpt from his book that outlined how within the Rubio campaign there is a concern that he has these moments of panic.
Yeah, remember he had the water thing?
The water thing, moments where in moments of high stress, he sometimes panics, which does not sound like a good qualification for president.
The water thing he was in response to a State of the Union,
address,
and he kept reaching for the water, and he was sweating.
Yeah.
Well, you make a great point about how these gaffes are enhanced by their attachment to a pre-existing narrative, if you will, about a candidate. Rick Perry and Gerald Ford, it was that they weren't the brightest bulbs in the chandelier. Michael Dukakis was seen as a bloodless technocrat, and his response certainly amplified that. Look, there's no crying in baseball or in politics. The piling on, and the media did pile on Rubio. There's no question about it. I mean, this was hardly the worst gaffe I've ever seen, although it was bad. But, I'm dry-eyed about it, and to his credit, Rubio ultimately acknowledged his error and is going to try to move on from this. The thing that interests me from a media standpoint is that Dan's comment about how he was following along on Twitter. And Emily, you were in that media room. I bet most of the journalists in there were doing the same. And it shows how there's kind of an echo chamber here, where something happens, you turn to Twitter to see what people are saying, and if there's a tsunami of ridicule, well, then next thing you know, you're swept up in the flow of the water.
Definitely some truth to that.
I would also add that Chris Christie was taking him down. Yes. And he was very good at that. So that got a lot of attention, too. I wonder if anybody else tried to respond to it in the moment, would it have been as effective?
But interestingly enough,
it didn't help Chris Christie.
There were also reports that Rubio and Christie spoke beforehand, and supposedly Rubio said, "I hear you're going to give me a hard time," and Christie said, "Absolutely." So Rubio knew it was coming, and he still...
Well, that might have made him panic more.
But Emily, we're on to something there real quickly. One thing that may have been totally missed by everyone in the media is that may have been a simultaneous Rubio and Christie gaffe. Christie wound up underperforming his own crappy poll numbers. And so maybe he was coming on too strong for a lot of people in that audience.